On a flight from Dallas to Los Angeles, Carolyn Jones, the queen of Morticia Addams, staggered to the bathroom, vomiting blood, her face pale under the dim lights. Just a few months later, she was gone forever. At the age of 53, this Texas girl once had it all: an Oscar nomination, a stunning mansion, and the glow of Hollywood fame. But behind her elegant smile, she hid a deadly secret, a cancer diagnosis, and a pain no one saw. Carolyn lived like Morticia, alluring and mysterious, but her heart carried deep scars: an absent father, broken romances, and a black leather notebook holding the secrets of her life. Why did she conceal her illness? Even knowing death was near, did Hollywood force her to live for her image? Or did she choose to leave this world to avoid pity? Carolyn's story is one of dazzling stage lights, but also of a darkness that consumed a soul. Stick around as we uncover the truth behind the tragedy of a star who never wanted to be forgotten. Chapter 1: A pitiful childhood sows lasting shadows. Before she became Morticia Addams, the woman who captivated millions with her enigmatic gaze, Carolyn Jones was a little girl trapped in a windowless room in Amarillo, Texas, in the 1930s, during the Great Depression. That place echoed with coughing fits and whispers of a curse. Her father, Julius, a barber, abandoned the family when Carolyn was just 4, leaving her mother, Chloe, battling agoraphobia and raising 2 young daughters alone. Carolyn and her sister Bet squeezed into their grandparents' home, where their grandfather Charles could erupt in sudden rages, sending young Carolyn cowering in a corner, clutching a Hollywood magazine, her first treasure, kept until her final days. Chronic asthma turned her childhood into a string of suffocating days. Weeks-long coughing spells confined her to a hazy room, where the only light came from the faded pages of that magazine. Images of Danny Kaye dancing and Spike Jonze flashing a radiant smile seemed to whisper, "There's a world out there." But the darkness wouldn't let go. One night, Carolyn overheard her mother murmuring to a torn photo of her father, "You left a curse on that girl." Those words haunted her, like a nameless shadow. In her diary, she sketched a room without doors, filled with the sound of footsteps circling endlessly, whose she never knew. At 18, Carolyn persuaded her grandfather to pay for her tuition at the Pasadena Playhouse, a training ground for Hollywood stars. The night before leaving, she stood before a mirror, struggling to breathe, hugging her worn Hollywood magazine. "I don't know what light is," she wrote in her diary, "but I think it's waiting for me somewhere." Pasadena was her first spark of hope, but the thin-walled boarding room she lived in became another haunted space. Each night, as she memorized lines, a mocking laugh echoed in her mind, her own voice, whispering, "You're not strong enough to be a star." Her mother had said it, and those words cut like a knife. The public never saw the small, abandoned Carolyn, tormented by illness. They saw only a young woman with big dreams, ready to conquer Hollywood. But judgment came early. "You're not strong enough," her mother said. "You'll fail," her grandfather muttered. In her Pasadena room, she held that magazine, flipping pages as if searching for answers. "I'm afraid they'll laugh at me," she wrote, her hand trembling. The pain of being judged was a fire that both drove and consumed her. That magazine, with its radiant stars, was her only light in the darkness, but would it be enough to guide her out? Could her Hollywood dream break the curse of her childhood? Or would it lead to an even greater tragedy? Chapter 2: Dazzling success and a price too high to pay. Just 8 minutes on screen in The Bachelor Party catapulted Carolyn Jones to glory, earning her a shining Oscar nomination. But for the rest of her life, she lived in the shadow of her own image wigs, makeup, and a smile rehearsed to exhaustion. In 1952, when she signed with Paramount Studios, Carolyn thought she touched the light. A small role in The Turning Point opened doors, but The Bachelor Party in 1957 was the moment the world took notice. "She's a rare gem," a critic wrote in Variety at 27. Carolyn stood at the peak, but under the stage lights, she felt herself fading away. Hollywood didn't want the real Carolyn Jones, the Texas girl with a plain voice and brown hair. They wanted a glamorous star. She was pushed into plastic surgery, dyed her hair blonde, and learned to move like royalty. Each time she faced a camera, she felt like she was playing a stranger. "I hate looking in the mirror," she once confided to a co-star on the set of House of Wax. A lighting technician recalled, "I saw her stare at a mirror for hours without blinking, like she was waiting for a different face to appear." The public adored her new beauty, but no one saw her heart breaking under the weight of judgment. She'd be nothing without that made-up face. She kept a small mirror in her purse but never opened it. When a co-star asked why, Carolyn just smiled. "I don't want to see who's in there." That mirror, like the black notebook she always carried, became a secret no one could touch. Rumors swirled that after every kissing scene in House of Wax, she'd scribble something in that notebook and hide it under her pillow. "I'm afraid Hollywood will swallow me whole," she wrote on one page, her hand shaking, as if each word was a confession. That notebook, never seen by anyone, seemed to hold the real Carolyn, the one being erased beneath layers of makeup. Her first love deepened the cracks in her heart. In 1950, at 19, Carolyn married Don Donaldson, a passionate 27-year-old. But within a year, they parted ways. She never spoke his name again. In her black notebook, she wrote only, "I tried to love, but love didn't recognize me." Those words, like a blade, carved the pain of abandonment and misunderstanding. The public saw a rising star, unaware that every smile on screen hid tears. People only see the shell. She once sobbed to her sister Bet, her voice trembling. The pain of being judged for her looks, rejected for her true self, made her withdraw. Even as the spotlight glowed around her, beneath the glamour, Carolyn felt herself slipping away. Each night, she opened her notebook, writing by dim light, as if clinging to a piece of her soul. The mirror in her purse stayed shut, a reminder that the real Carolyn Jones was vanishing, and no one, not even she, dared to face it. As the stage lights blazed, did Carolyn suspect the cost of fame would push her to the edge? Chapter 3: Love and Betrayal. Carolyn Jones once believed love could heal her loneliness, but for her, it was like a numbing drug soothing old wounds, only to leave new ones. In 1953, when she met Aaron Spelling at a small Los Angeles theater, Carolyn saw a spark in the darkness. He was a young writer, ambitious, laughing with her, dreaming of Hollywood, and sharing her passion for the stage, tired of being alone. Carolyn did the unthinkable. She proposed to Aaron. "I can't keep waiting," she said, her eyes blazing. They married, moving into a 13-room mansion with a deep bathtub and a tennis court. Carolyn even converted to Judaism for him, a gesture that stunned her friends. But the glamour faded fast. Carolyn shone in House of Wax and King Creole with Elvis Presley, where she nearly collapsed from a high fever but still nailed her kissing scene. "That was the kiss I was afraid would make Elvis sick," she joked with the crew. Meanwhile, Aaron struggled with scripts no one wanted. When he finally hit it big with Beverly Hills 90210, everything changed. At a party, Aaron laughed. "Carolyn's the star of the house, and I handle the behind the scenes." But his eyes were cold, as if saying the opposite. Carolyn began dreaming of switching roles, a dream she'd never wake from. "I'm not the lead anymore," she wrote in her black notebook, the ink trembling. Then the cracks showed. Aaron came home late, offering no explanations. One night, Carolyn found a letter in his jacket-yellowed paper, bold ink smelling of perfume, unsigned. She didn't dare ask. She just tore it into tiny pieces and let them sink in the bathtub, where they'd once laughed together in happier days. "I can't trust anyone anymore," she wrote in her notebook, like a curse. The public saw only the dazzling Carolyn Jones, unaware her heart was shattering. Judged as not good enough to keep Aaron. "Love is a luxury I can't afford," she cried to Bet, her voice shaking, the day she signed the divorce papers in 1964. Carolyn wore an old robe, a gift from Aaron in their first year. She said nothing. She just took her lipstick, wrote her name on a mirror, and wiped it clean, as if erasing a failed role. In the empty mansion, a glass of wine in hand, she sat alone, staring at a door that would never open, the pain of betrayal, of being abandoned as she was in childhood, made her retreat further. After the divorce, some said they saw Carolyn sitting for hours on her balcony, staring at the phone as if waiting for a call that would never come. Was it Aaron? Or a new chance calling from Hollywood? Could Carolyn find love again? Or would her broken heart lead her to fateful choices? Chapter 4. The Role of a Lifetime That Trapped Carolyn Jones. Morticia Addams made Carolyn Jones a legend. It also ensured she could never be herself again. In 1964, when she stepped into the Addams family, Carolyn turned Morticia into an icon with long black hair, a haunting gaze, and graceful movements. "I learned to move as little as possible, like an elegant shadow," she said in an interview. Fans went wild, calling her the Queen of Darkness. But behind the glamour, Carolyn felt chained in a prison of black silk. The Morticia gown, stunning on screen, was an invisible shackle. It was so tight she could barely breathe, taking 20 minutes to remove. After each scene, Carolyn had to lie down as crew members unpicked the seams, a makeup artist recalled. Once, she nearly fainted, not from the tightness, but because she whispered she was being swallowed whole. The public adored Morticia, but refused to see Carolyn in other roles. "She's just Morticia," directors said, judging her as a statue frozen in place. Each rejection of a new role was a stab, making her wonder, who am I without her? To escape the pain, Carolyn dove into a lavish lifestyle. She bought furs, wore expensive jewelry, and threw parties in her mansion. But each night, when the party lights dimmed, she sat alone, her black notebook open before her. "I have everything, but I have nothing," she wrote, the ink trembling. A friend said that in 1970. Carolyn was offered a starring role in a Golden Globe-winning film. She turned it down. No one knew why. A friend whispered, maybe she was afraid. Maybe someone held her back. Was it fear of outshining Morticia, or a deeper secret lurking? Whenever a new offer came, Carolyn did something odd. She lit a black candle, as if asking Morticia's permission. "I want to know if I'm allowed to be myself," she once told Bet, her voice heavy with meaning. Once, the candle went out before she could blow it, and Carolyn sat still, her eyes lost. The public didn't see these rituals. They judged her as a one-role star, unaware that each rejected role was like a self-inflicted wound. "I want to be Carolyn, but they only want Morticia," she cried, her voice breaking. The pain of being typecast, of having her talent dismissed, made her feel like a failure in the kingdom she'd built. When the Addams Family was canceled in 1966, Carolyn fell apart. "They took Morticia from me," she said, her eyes welling up. On set, she smiled, but her gaze betrayed fear of being forgotten when the lights went out. The Morticia gown, though removed, clung to her like a curse. Every role after, every new chance, dissolved in the shadow of that black silk dress. Morticia lifted Carolyn to the heights, but locked her in eternal darkness, as the world loved Morticia. Could Carolyn escape that curse, or would it drag her into the abyss? Chapter 5. A Fleeting Happiness Too Fragile to Last. After years lost in the shadows, Carolyn Jones thought she'd found the light. In 1968, she married Herbert Green, a dreamy music conductor. But Herbert pulled her away from Hollywood to Palm Springs, where she felt trapped in God's waiting room. "I'm not myself anymore," she whispered to a friend, her voice hollow. In 1975, she divorced and returned to Los Angeles, burning with a desire to reclaim her career. In her small apartment, she kept only 3 things: a portrait of Morticia, her mother's silver hairbrush, and the black notebook no one could read. What did she plan to write in it, but never had the chance? Hollywood hadn't forgotten her. Carolyn appeared in Batman, Wonder Woman, and stage plays. In 1982, she met Peter Bailey Britton, a fellow actor. They fell deeply in love, and for the first time, Carolyn felt truly seen. "He loves me, not Morticia," she said, her eyes shining. But sharp stomach pains began to plague her. She kept them secret, telling only a close friend, "I don't want anyone's pity." A strange detail: a friend said Carolyn received an anonymous letter threatening to expose the truth about her health. She burned it, but her eyes betrayed fear. The public saw only a star making a comeback. Unaware, she trembled after every scene. They judged her as too old for Hollywood, with cruel headlines sneering, "Morticia's past her prime." The harsh words made her blame herself. "I shouldn't have left." In her apartment, she brushed her hair with the silver brush, stared at the Morticia portrait, and wrote in her notebook, "I don't want them to see me weak." The pain of being judged, of being called washed up, made her withdraw further. Her happiness with Peter was a fragile candle, but a strange rumor spread Carolyn had bought a one-way ticket to New York. Despite her steady work, was she planning to leave? She held Peter under the moonlight, her smile hiding the pain eating at her body. "I just want to be loved for me," she wrote in her notebook. The letters shaky, but her gaze, fixed on the silver brush, seemed to ask, "Is this happiness real?" The fear of being pitied haunted her, like Morticia's shadow that never left. Could this new joy hold Carolyn back? Or would the darkness of illness swallow it all? Chapter 6. Despair on a Fateful Flight. Passengers on the 1983 Dallas to Los Angeles flight noticed something odd. Carolyn Jones walked slowly, head slightly bowed, lips pressed tight as if she knew what was coming. In 1982, she'd been diagnosed with colon cancer but told everyone it was just an ulcer, despite the pain. She filmed Capital, sitting in a wheelchair, her smile forced. "Acting is my breath," she told a colleague. But in her apartment, beside the Morticia portrait and silver brush, she wrote in her black notebook, "I don't want anyone's pity, not even my own." On that doomed flight, the pain exploded. Carolyn rushed to the bathroom, where dim lights lit her pale face. Blood poured out, staining the sink. The crew panicked. Passengers whispered, "That's Morticia, what's happening after landing?" She was rushed to a hospital. Doctors were stunned. The cancer had spread everywhere. "We can't save her," they said. A friend revealed Carolyn had stopped treatment in June. She never explained why, but each night, she lit a black candle and stared into a mirror, whispering, "I lived the way they wanted." Did she choose death to preserve her star image? Carolyn slipped into a coma in her West Hollywood apartment, with Peter Bailey Britton by her side. Their 1982 wedding, where she wore a lace veil to hide her thinning hair, was her last moment of radiance. "I want to be beautiful for him. Just one more time," she said, her voice faint. She passed away on August 3rd, 1983, at 53. A strange detail: some said she left a letter in her black notebook, but Peter never opened it. She didn't want pity, he said, his eyes red. The public called her a failed star when Capital flopped, blind to her trembling in a wheelchair, fighting to deliver every line. The pain of being misunderstood, of being dismissed, led her to face death in silence. In her apartment, the Morticia portrait watched over her. The silver brush lay still beside the notebook. "I don't want to be a burden," she'd sobbed to Peter. On that flight, she didn't just lose her life, she lost the chance to be loved for who she was. Did she step into the darkness on purpose? Or was it the final price of fame? What was Carolyn protecting by hiding her secret, her legacy, or a deeper pain? Epilogue, a legacy in the spotlight. Carolyn Jones is gone, but her light still shines. Her Morticia Addams isn't just a character, it's a cultural icon, inspiring cartoons, remakes, and millions of fans. Before her death, she donated Morticia's gown and wig to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. In the museum, the gown glows under white light, but no one knows Carolyn wept her last tears giving it away, as if letting go of herself. Peter Bailey Britton sent the Addams Family scripts to UCLA, ensuring her name lives on. She was Morticia, but above all, she was Carolyn, Peter said, his voice breaking. Carolyn's story proves talent can triumph over hardship. From a sickly Texas girl to an Oscar-nominated star, she fought poverty, illness, and cruel judgments. But fame's cost was steep. Hollywood forced her to change. The public trapped her as Morticia, and the pain of betrayal and misunderstanding made her retreat. "I don't want pity," she wrote in her black notebook, a haunting refrain from her final days. Her death sparked questions. Did Hollywood treat its actresses fairly? She deserves to be remembered for her talent. Not just Morticia, a Hollywood Reporter critic wrote. The biggest mystery remains unanswered. Did Carolyn choose death? A friend said she stopped treatment in June, lighting black candles each night like a final ritual. "I don't want anyone to see me weak," she whispered, staring into a mirror. The black notebook, the Morticia portrait, and the silver brush in her apartment are her final pieces. What did she mean to write in that notebook? But never could that question haunt fans, like a shadow under stage lights. Carolyn Jones was a star, but also a deeply wounded woman. The pain of judgment, of being forced to change, and of being silenced by "I don't want pity" followed her to the end. If you visit Melrose Abbey, where her ashes rest, what will you see? A star, or a woman who fought to be loved for herself? Drop a comment and share your thoughts. Does Carolyn Jones deserve more recognition? Her story reminds us that behind the glamour lies a heart that may have broken in silence.